Hello, everybody. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Coming up, we're going to talk about a chance of a white Christmas. We have the Geminid Meteor Shower that's taking off in a big way. It peaks here in the next couple of days. A lot of meteors possible. We'll talk about that forecast for clouds and who may have the better chance at seeing those clouds as we look at the cloud forecast heading into the peak that's taking place soon. Again, a chance of a white Christmas, the Geminid Meteor Shower, step by step. We'll take that right now.
Now, a Hutch's weather update with meteorologist Hutch Johnson.
All right, here's what you need to know. Let's start with the Geminid meteor shower as we head into the next couple of days here. We're gliding through Tuesday. Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to see the peak, and the peak is pretty significant as we're going to have that chance at seeing upwards of 120 meteors per hour. Now, the Geminid meteor shower is called by many the kids' meteor shower. Why? Because the best times to view it aren't so awful late. We can even see them as early as 9 o'clock all the way through dawn, and again, you just need to look up with this. It's one of the most reliable meteor showers of the entire year, the Geminids. Now, they've been ongoing. In fact, I've seen a few of these meteors streaking across the skies of the Dakotas. And you could probably say the same in your area. Will we be able to see them? No, the peak date is the 14th. So as we head into our Thursday morning and even Thursday evening. And again, just get away from light pollution. But we have another bonus. And that bonus is a simple fact that we have a new moon going on. That means no moonlight to really filter things out as we go through. Let's get right to the look at our chances of clouds. This is a look at the future satellite across the nation as we set this into motion. You're looking at Tuesday as we head through the overnight hours. I'm going to pause this as we get to the time of around evening, and we see quite a few clouds forming in the central plains here. In fact, high thick clouds are shown by this future satellite where you see the blues, maybe even some convective clouds in North Texas, right? And some, well, convective clouds of the variety producing some snow showers in the mountains of Colorado. And as we look at the rest of the nation, it looks fairly clear across most of the eastern portion of the nation, minus the Great Lakes states. We have a batch of clouds working through the northern plains and, well, really across the headwaters of the Mississippi there in Minnesota, and the northern Rockies looking pretty good. So all but the central Rockies and the south central United States will have a mingle with clouds in the early evening. Overnight, where do they go? Well, they're going to shift east. It looks like clouds will be persistent. You're looking at a timestamp here that takes us right into daybreak, 6 a.m. We could have a few clouds clearing Minnesota and heading into Wisconsin. It does look cloudy for much of the state of Illinois through Indiana and also through Missouri. As we head to the southeast United States, we'll see some unsettled weather making its way in, and these are some real juicy clouds here with bright colors indicating a higher water content from those. Otherwise, the best chance of viewing the meteor shower in its peak in the next night is going to be up north and out to the west with some unsettled weather making its way through the Rockies. Okay, how about the following day? We'll go through the daylight hours because it's hard to see those meteors during the day, obviously. Then as we head into the evening hours, here we go. Look at this. We continue to see on Wednesday evening some unsettled weather in the Rockies. So that's going to be a thing for both of the days of the peak of this event. One beautiful thing about the Rocky Mountains of Montana and Wyoming and those areas being so rural is the viewing will be spectacular. You get up in elevated terrain and you have less atmosphere to look through, so those babies can be pretty bright. Much of the eastern third of the United States will be without cloud cover heading into the evening on Thursday, which is the peak of the meteor shower. Look at the Gulf Coast states. So from Houston through Dallas, Fort Worth, on into the much of Louisiana, particularly the Gulf Coast states and the Delta, seeing a fair amount of clouds. Those clouds do shift east as we go into the overnight hours. And look at what's heading north then as we go towards 6 a.m. or daybreak. This batch of clouds exiting out of Colorado, heading into parts of western Nebraska and western Kansas in the Wichita area. Elsewhere, we do have some clouds and a system working its way onshore in the Pacific Northwest that could limit viewing there. That is a look at the meteor shower. And I got to tell you, I hope to get a chance to see them. It's awful fun. It's kind of cold up here in the northern plains. You might want to bring a jacket along with you as you go out for that nighttime viewing. The best viewing is getting away from any light pollution of the big city, but with a 120 meteors per hour. You should have a pretty fair chance at seeing some of those. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about chances of a white Christmas. Will it be white? Let's look at averages first. And to do that, I'll pull you back over to this side. Number one. Across the lower 48, historically, the chances of 1 inch of snow on the ground are represented by this graphic. Where you see the dark gray colors here, the chances of seeing a white Christmas are between 0 and 10%. It just doesn't happen too much in Miami, Florida, nor does it happen in the Gulf Coast states too frequently. Now, as we go northward, where we start to see the blue shades enter the scene, it's greater than 10% and lower than a 25% chance or so as we slide north of Kansas, so into Nebraska, and throughout the Rocky Mountain West, where you start seeing brighter blue colors, the chance of a white Christmas is much, much greater. We're talking about Minnesota here, the Dakotas, and our chances there are greater than 70% for much of the northern plains, and that chance exceeds 90% where you see white colors, typically reserved for those Burr locations like Bemidji, Minnesota, or up in Maine and Bangor. Yeah, even on the shores there's a decent chance of a white Christmas. And the Rocky Mountain states, of course, with the elevated terrain being a factor, have a much better chance. What about this year? Well, to take a look at that, I will pull up a long-range model. And as a meteorologist, I want to let you know that this really, the farther we get out in time, the lower our really the confidence is in these models. So keep that in mind. But I do see a trend towards a pattern shift as we go towards the latter portion of the month. Now, down south, it's still not looking like a great chance of a white Christmas, right? But places like the northern plains in Minnesota and Fargo have been devoid of snow for much of the winter season. We just had a little Alberta clipper move through, dumping some snow in the northern plains. Let's take a look at this model and get to the teeth of the forecast. First and foremost, as we begin the forecast period tonight, we have very quiet weather nationwide, coast to coast, maybe unsettled in only the northeastern states as we have a Hudson Bay low stapled and stuck over Hudson Bay. That's because the open waters there are warmer, and that tends to be a place where those storms like to sit. Cold high pressure diving out of the Dakotas, and we'll head southward and eastward as we go into the deeper parts of our work week here and head toward the late week. A big bubble of warm air starts to lean its way in from the west coast and make its way into the northern plains where we see these red lines here. That's some much milder air heading into the Dakotas then as we go into Thursday and Friday. Will it be record-setting highs? Not for all of us, but it certainly will be some mild weather. Here's the unsettled weather in the Rockies. Let's get closer to Christmas. We do have some showers making their way through, possibly some stronger storms in the afternoon times right in the Gulf Coast states, but I do think the best chance of that will be this weekend once again, where a low pressure system is advertised by this American model to develop in the eastern Gulf. We're talking off the west coast of Florida. So from Tampa north, Fort Myers north, and on into the Panhandle, we could have some very active weather. The time frame here is Saturday night and throughout the day on Sunday, some heavy rain. Otherwise, most of the nation extremely quiet. This is the 18th, and that gets us through this week. Now, we head into the 19th and glide toward the week of Christmas with very quiet weather across the lower 48, with the exception of the coasts, right? Off the west coast of California, it's been a long time since we've seen something make its way onshore in California. Most of our storms have been slamming into the Pacific Northwest, and it's been a very soggy winter season and late fall season in Oregon and in the state of Washington. More active weather on the East Coast as well, but it mainly stays offshore. Wind and rain certainly a factor. The date time stamp here is going to be the 19th into the 20th. Now, what's weird about this? This is more classic El Nino pattern to see our storm track dip south and include California. So let's see where this goes. And this is the pattern shift I'm talking about, where we may have this system glide over the Rockies. And look at this. This is the 23rd. Big travel week, low pressure developing in the Rockies and moving off into the Central Plains. Now, this, again, will it happen? There is not very much confidence that this is exactly what we're going to see. What we do have some confidence in is a pattern shift. I have seen advertising of a holiday-ish storm the week leading into the holiday. So we're talking about Christmas Eve and Christmas Day here. This storm system on this particular American model run, carrying it into the northern plains, and we'll keep our eyes on the chances of that. If this does indeed make its way into the northern plains, then the chance of the white Christmas here is much, much greater. And again, it's been very dry with only about an inch of snow or less in parts of the southern Dakotas. So all in all, we're talking about some white and stormier weather possibly working its way in the week of Christmas for travelers and for those looking for a white Christmas and for those riding in sleighs who may have tidings of great joy. We'll keep you updated on the forecast. I am meteorologist Hutch Johnson, joining you from Fargo, North Dakota. I really appreciate your likes, your follows, and of course, subscriptions to my YouTube channel right here. Hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you get notifications on updates and topics such as this.